Chapter 1. Stop reacting, start commanding. Imagine you are in a high-stakes meeting. The air in the room is thick. You've put weeks of work into a proposal, and just as you finish, a senior colleague sneers. They call your data flimsy and your logic amateur. In that split second, a heat rises in your chest. Your heart rate spikes. Your throat tightens. Your brain is screaming at you to defend yourself, to snap back with a clever insult, or perhaps to shrink into your chair in embarrassment. This is the moment of truth. This is the crossroads where most people lose their power. Most people react. They allow the other person's rudeness to dictate their internal state. But the person who holds the power, they do something different. They command. The illusion of control. We like to think we are in control of our lives. We choose our clothes, our careers, and our partners. But if a single comment from a stranger or a misinterpreted email from a boss can ruin your entire afternoon, are you truly in control? The truth is, if you are reactive, you are a puppet. Every person you encounter holds a string. If they are mean, they pull the anger string, and you dance. If they ignore you, they pull the insecurity string, and you stumble. Emotional stability, the new power, is about cutting those strings. It is about becoming unpuppetable. The biology of the hijack. To stop reacting, you must understand what is happening inside your skin. Millions of years ago, if something startled us, it was likely a predator. Our brains developed the amygdala, a tiny, almond-shaped alarm system designed to trigger a fight, flight, or freeze response. In the modern world, we don't face many saber-toothed tigers. Instead, our predators are snarky comments, traffic jams, and social media notifications. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference. It treats a critical boss the same way it treats a predator. When you react, you are letting a prehistoric part of your brain run a modern life. Command, however, lives in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic, strategy, and long-term thinking. The goal of this chapter is to teach you how to move the command center of your life from the emotional basement of the amygdala to the executive suite of the prefrontal cortex. The power is in the pause. There is a famous concept often attributed to psychiatrist Viktor Frankl: between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. For the reactive person, that space is non-existent. Something happens, and they explode. For the powerful person, that space is a canyon. Think of a professional athlete. When a defender gets in their face, trying to provoke them, the amateur reacts and gets a technical foul. The pro feels the same provocation, but they use that space to breathe, reassess, and make the play that wins the game. How do we widen that space? We use a tool I want you to memorize right now. It is your first instrument of power. The tool: pause, breathe, choose. Let's break this down. 1. Pause. The moment you feel that hit of emotion, anger, shame, or panic, stop. Do not speak. Do not type. Do not move. In a negotiation, the first person to speak after a tense moment often loses. Silence is not weakness, it is the ultimate shield. By pausing, you are signaling to your brain that there is no immediate physical danger. You are telling your nervous system, I am safe. 2. Breathe. A physiological reaction requires oxygen. When we are stressed, we take shallow, rapid breaths. By taking one deep, deliberate breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth, you manually override your fight or flight system. You are literally hacking your own biology to stay in command. 3. Choose. Now that the cloud of the initial reaction has thinned, ask yourself, what response serves my long-term goal? If your goal is to be respected, is screaming the best choice? No. If your goal is to get the promotion, is acting defensive the best choice? No. Now, you aren't just doing what feels good in the moment. You are doing what is effective. Case study: the boardroom versus the break room. Consider two managers, Sarah and Mark. Mark is a reactor. When a project fails, he finds someone to blame immediately. He sends all caps emails at 11 p.m. He feels powerful in the moment because he is venting his intensity. But his team is terrified. They hide mistakes from him. High performers leave his department. Mark has intensity, but he has no power because he is a slave to his moods. Sarah is a commander. When the same project fails, she feels the same frustration Mark does. But she pauses. She breathes. She chooses to walk into the meeting and say, "This isn't the result we wanted. Let's look at the data and see where the pivot needs to happen." The room settles. The team feels safe enough to be honest. Sarah is the calm center. Because she didn't react, she is the only one capable of leading the team out of the mess. Who do you want to be? The person who creates the storm, or the person who steers the ship through it? Discipline versus instinct. We often hear people say, "I'm just an emotional person," or "I just have a hot temper." They say it as if it's an unchangeable personality trait, like eye color. It isn't. Reaction is an instinct, but command is a discipline. Like any muscle, it must be trained. You wouldn't expect to walk into a gym and bench press 300 pounds on day one. Similarly, you shouldn't expect to stay perfectly calm during a life-altering crisis if you haven't practiced on the small things. Start small. The next time you're stuck in traffic and someone cuts you off, notice the impulse to honk or yell. Pause. Breathe. Choose. Choose to keep your hands relaxed on the wheel. The next time someone leaves a rude comment on your social media, notice the impulse to write a 3-paragraph defense. Pause. Breathe. Choose. Choose to put the phone down. These small wins are the representatives that build the heavy-duty muscle of emotional stability. Your mission for Chapter 1. As we conclude this first step of your journey, I want you to carry this mantra with you. Reaction is a gift I no longer give. When you react, you are giving away your energy, your time, and your mental peace for free. From this moment on, your response is an expensive commodity. It is earned, not stolen. Tonight, before you go to sleep, review your day. Find one moment where you reacted reflexively. Don't judge yourself for it. Just observe it. Then, visualize yourself in that same moment using the pause. Breathe. Choose method. See yourself standing tall, speaking slowly, and remaining unshaken. You are no longer a victim of your environment. You are the commander of your soul. Summary phrase to remember. Power begins in the pause. Chapter 2. The world rewards the unshaken. Think about the last time you were in a crisis. Perhaps it was a medical emergency, a sudden financial hit, or a high-stakes conflict at work. Who was the person you looked to? Was it the person screaming? Was it the person pacing back and forth, venting their anxiety to anyone who would listen? No. You looked to the person who was standing still. You looked to the person whose voice remained low, whose movements were deliberate, and whose eyes were clear. In every culture, in every era of history, and in every industry on the planet, there is a universal law: the world rewards the unshaken. When everything is falling apart, the person who remains calm is the person who is handed the keys. In this chapter, we are going to explore why emotional consistency is the ultimate currency of influence and how you can begin to collect it. The economics of calm. We live in a marketplace of energy. Every interaction you have, whether it's with your spouse, your boss, or a stranger, is an exchange. Emotional volatility is expensive. When you are volatile, people have to pay a psychological tax just to deal with you. They have to walk on eggshells. They have to wonder, is this a good day to talk to them? Or how are they going to react if I give them this bad news? When you are expensive to deal with, people eventually stop buying what you're selling. Opportunities stop coming your way. You are left out of the inner circle because you are seen as a liability, not an asset. On the other hand, emotional stability is a dividend. It pays you back. When you are consistent, you become a safe harbor. People know exactly who you are going to be, regardless of the circumstances. This predictability creates a profound sense of safety in others. And in a world that feels increasingly unsafe, safety is the most valuable thing you can offer. The negotiator's edge. Let's look at the world of high-stakes negotiation. Whether you are buying a house, asking for a raise, or settling a legal dispute, the person who is most attached to the outcome usually loses. Why? Because attachment creates emotional leaks. If a salesperson sees that you are overly excited about a car, they know they have the leverage. They can push the price because they see your stability has been compromised by your desire. However, the unshaken negotiator is different. They may want the deal, but they don't need the deal. Their internal state is not dependent on the other person saying yes. Because they remain steady, they can think clearly. They see the traps. They hear what is not being said. In the room of a negotiation, silence and a steady gaze are more powerful than any clever argument. When you are unshaken, the other side begins to wonder what you know that they don't. Your calm becomes a mirror that reflects their own insecurities back at them. Volatility versus consistency. A tale of two leaders. Consider two fictional characters, though you likely know real versions of both, volatile Victor and consistent Claire. Victor is brilliant. He's creative, high energy, and passionate. When things are going well, he's the best person in the office. But when a deadline is missed, Victor blows up. He slams doors, he sends biting Slack messages, and he blames the incompetence around him. Claire is also brilliant, but her baseline is different. When the same deadline is missed, Claire feels the same frustration Victor does. But her team never sees a spike in her temper. She sits them down and asks, what was the bottleneck, and how do we clear it for next time? Who gets promoted to Executive VP? It's always Claire. Why? Because the organization cannot trust Victor with more power. Power acts as an amplifier. If Victor is already volatile with a team of 5, he will be catastrophic with a team of 500. Claire's stability proves she can handle the weight of power without cracking. Remember this, stability builds trust. Trust builds influence. The non-anxious presence in family conflict. This power isn't just for the boardroom. It is perhaps most transformative in the living room. Think about a heated argument with a partner or a rebellious teenager. Usually, these conflicts follow a predictable script. Person A raises their voice. Person B raises theirs higher to be heard. Person A feels attacked and brings up a mistake from 3 years ago. Person B reacts with sarcasm. This is a feedback loop of volatility. It has no exit ramp. But what happens when one person refuses to follow the script? What happens when you become a non-anxious presence? If your partner yells and you respond with a calm, lower volume voice, the physics of the room changes. You have broken the loop. By remaining unshaken, you force the other person to eventually meet you at your level, or they will feel increasingly ridiculous for shouting at a wall of calm. By staying steady, you aren't losing the argument. You are leading the relationship toward a resolution. You are demonstrating that your peace is not for sale. The evolutionary alpha. Biologically, we are wired to follow the calmest person in the tribe. In our ancestral past, if a predator attacked, the person who panicked and ran blindly usually died. The person who stood their ground, assessed the situation, and gave clear, quiet directions was the one who saved the tribe. We still have that DNA. When we see someone stay cool under pressure, our subconscious brain marks them as a leader. We feel a natural, almost magnetic pull toward them. This is why the unshaken always rise to the top of hierarchies. It isn't because they are the most aggressive, it's because they are the most resilient. They are the immovable object that the unstoppable force of the world eventually gives up on trying to move. How to practice the unshaken persona. Being unshaken is not about suppressing your emotions or becoming a robot. It is about your exterior presentation and your internal processing. 1. Lower the volume, slow the tempo. When the world gets loud, get quiet. When the world gets fast, get slow. If you feel yourself getting angry, consciously speak 20% slower. This sends a signal to everyone around you, and to your own nervous system, that you are still in command. 2. The 5-year rule. In the moment of a crisis, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, then the event does not deserve a 5-year emotional reaction. Most of what we lose our cool over won't even matter in 5 days. Keep your perspective wide. 3. Practice voluntary discomfort. To be unshaken in big moments, you must practice being unshaken in small, annoying moments. When you're stuck in a long line at the grocery store, Don't sigh or check your watch repeatedly. Use that moment to practice internal stillness. See if you can be the most relaxed person in that line. That is your training ground. Your mission for Chapter 2. The next time you are in a situation where you would normally spike emotionally, whether it's a criticism, a delay, or a mistake, I want you to try on the unshaken identity. Ask yourself, what would the most powerful, composed version of me do right now? Then, do that. Even if you don't feel it yet, act the part. The feeling will follow the action. The world is looking for an anchor. It is looking for someone who cannot be rattled. If you can be that person, the world will give you whatever you want. Summary phrase to remember. Stability builds trust. Trust builds influence. Chapter 3. Your emotions are signals, not orders. Close your eyes for a moment, unless you're driving, and imagine you are sitting in the cockpit of a modern jet. In front of you is a dazzling array of lights, screens, and dials. Suddenly, a small amber light begins to flicker on the far right of the panel. It's the low fuel indicator. What do? Do you scream at the light? Do you get offended that the light is questioning your piloting skills? Do you immediately dive the plane into the ground because the light made you feel panicked? Of course not. You acknowledge the light. You say, I see. We are low on fuel. I need to find a place to land or adjust my flight path. You treat the light as data. You don't let the light fly the plane. Most people spend their entire lives letting the lights on their emotional dashboard fly the plane of their existence. When the anger light flashes, they attack. When the insecurity light blinks, they hide. They treat their emotions as orders that must be obeyed, rather than signals that should be interpreted. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to become the data scientist of your own soul. We are going to decode the language of your feelings so that you can remain in the pilot seat, no matter what the dashboard says. The feeling fact fallacy. The greatest obstacle to emotional stability is a psychological trap called emotional reasoning. This is the belief that because you feel something, it must be true. I feel like a failure, therefore I am a failure. I feel like my partner is being distant, therefore they must be cheating. I feel overwhelmed, therefore this task is impossible. This is a logical fallacy that keeps you in a state of constant turbulence. Your feelings are not facts. They are biochemical surges, weather patterns passing through the sky of your consciousness. The sky remains, but the clouds move on. To gain power, you must learn to decouple your state from your identity. You are the sky, not the storm. When you realize that a feeling is just a temporary physiological event, it loses its authority over you. You stop being a slave to the order and start being a student of the signal. Decoding the dashboard. What your emotions are actually saying. Every negative emotion you feel is actually trying to tell you something important. The problem is that we usually speak different languages. We speak English, our body speaks sensation. Let's translate the 3 most common signals. 1. Anger, the boundary signal. Anger is rarely just being mad. At its core, anger is a signal that a boundary has been crossed or a value has been violated. When you feel that heat in your chest, don't just lash out. Ask the signal, what boundary was just breached? Maybe a colleague took credit for your work. Maybe a friend disrespected your time. Once you identify the boundary, you can address it with surgical precision rather than blunt force trauma. You don't need to yell, you need to reinforce the fence. 2. Anxiety, the preparation signal. Anxiety is often seen as a monster, but it's actually a misguided bodyguard. Anxiety is your brain's way of saying, there is a gap between the challenge ahead and our current level of preparation or certainty. It is a call to action. If you feel anxious about a presentation, it's a signal to practice one more time. If you feel anxious about your finances, it's a signal to look at the spreadsheet you've been avoiding. Once you take the preparatory action, the signal has fulfilled its purpose and usually begins to dim. 3. Envy, the potential signal. We are taught that envy is a sin. But in the world of emotional stability, envy is a map. It shows you what you actually want but haven't given yourself permission to pursue. When you feel a pang of envy towards someone else's success, Don't let it turn into bitterness, which is a reactive order. Instead, ask the signal, what does this person have that I am not currently working toward? Envy is often your potential crying out for attention. The feel it, name it, don't obey it protocol. To master this chapter, I want you to adopt a specific, 3-step protocol every time a strong emotion hits you. This is how you move from reacting to analyzing. Step 1. Feel it. Most of us try to suppress emotions the moment they become uncomfortable. We grab our phones, we eat, we drink, or we distract ourselves. But suppression is not stability. It's just delayed explosion. Instead, lean in. Locate the emotion in your body. Is it a tightness in your jaw? A weight on your shoulders? A fluttering in your stomach? By focusing on the physical sensation, you take the story out of the emotion. You turn a crisis into a sensation. It is much easier to manage a tight jaw than it is to manage the end of the world. Step 2. Name it. There is a powerful psychological concept called affect labeling. Brain scans show that the moment you put a name to an emotion, saying, I am experiencing frustration or I am feeling a surge of inadequacy, the activity in your amygdala, the emotional alarm, drops, and the activity in your prefrontal cortex, the rational commander, increases. Naming the emotion creates a micro-distance between you and the feeling. You are no longer angry. You are the person observing the anger. Feel it. Name it. Step 3. Don't obey it. This is the most critical step. This is where the new power resides. Just because your anger orders you to send a nasty text doesn't mean you have to do it. Just because your fear orders you to stay home doesn't mean you have to listen. Imagine the emotion is a toddler having a tantrum in the middle of a grocery store. You don't hit the toddler, but you also don't let the toddler decide what you're buying for dinner. You acknowledge the tantrum, you remain calm, and you keep walking down the aisle. The power of the second arrow. There is an old Buddhist teaching about the 2 arrows. The first arrow is the event itself, the criticism, the breakup, the lost job. This causes pain. It is an unavoidable part of life. The second arrow is our emotional reaction to the first arrow. We shoot ourselves with the second arrow when we obsess over the pain, when we get angry that we are sad, or when we panic about our anxiety. The first arrow is the signal. The second arrow is the order. Emotional stability is the art of only being hit by the first arrow. You acknowledge the pain or the signal, but you refuse to escalate it into a self-inflicted wound. You let the signal do its job, to inform you, and then you let it go. Real-world application, the data scientist at work. Imagine you receive an email from a client saying they are unhappy with your latest deliverable. The old way, obeying the order, you feel a surge of shame and defensiveness. The order is to defend yourself or blame the client. You type back an aggressive email, burning the bridge and ruining your reputation. The new way, reading the signal. Feel it. You feel the heat in your face and the knot in your stomach. You sit with it for 60 seconds. Name it. You say to yourself, I'm feeling a hit to my ego and a fear of losing this contract. Don't obey it. You realize the fear is a signal to check the quality of the work. You realize the ego hit is just data. Command. You wait an hour. You reply, thank you for the feedback. Let's hop on a call to ensure we align the next version with your vision. By treating your emotion as data, you just turned a potential disaster into a professional win. Your mission for Chapter 3. For the next 24 hours, I want you to look at your emotions as if they were weather reports on a screen. When you feel a spike of anything, joy, anger, sadness, or stress, stop and say the mantra. Feel it. Name it. Don't obey it. Practice the micro-distance. See how many signals you can catch before they turn into orders. Remember, the person who obeys their feelings is predictable. The person who uses their feelings as data is formidable. You are the pilot. The lights on the dashboard are there to help you, not to control you. Summary phrase to remember. Feel it. Name it. Don't obey it. Chapter 4. Detach from the need to be understood. We have all been there. You're in the middle of a disagreement, perhaps with a partner, a parent, or a colleague, and you find yourself repeating the same sentence for the 5th time. You change your tone. You use a different metaphor. You raise your voice slightly, not out of anger, but out of a desperate, clawing need for the other person to say the words, "I get it. You're right. I see your point." But they don't say it. Instead, they squint, they counterattack, or they stare at you with blank incomprehension. What happens to your emotional state in that moment? Most people feel a surge of agitation. Their heart rate climbs. They feel a sense of injustice. This is because we have been conditioned to believe that our peace of mind is tied to someone else's agreement. In this chapter, we are going to break that chain. We are going to explore why the need to be understood is one of the greatest leaks of emotional power in existence. And I'm going to show you how to step into a state of permissionless certainty, where your truth is enough even if no one else ever sees it. The validation trap. Why we beg for understanding. Biologically, the need to be understood is rooted in our survival. Thousands of years ago, being misunderstood by the tribe could lead to exile. If the group didn't understand your intentions or your value, you were cast out into the wilderness to fend for yourself. In that context, understanding equaled safety. But in the modern world, this instinct has become a cage. When you require someone to understand your perspective before you can feel at peace, you have effectively handed them a remote control to your emotions. You are saying, "I will remain agitated and unstable until you give me the understanding button." This creates an emotional dependency. If the person you are talking to is stubborn, manipulative, or simply has a different worldview, they can withhold that understanding indefinitely. They keep you in a state of emotional limbo, spinning your wheels, explaining yourself until you are exhausted and depleted. True power, the new power, is the ability to be completely misunderstood and remain completely at peace. JADE, the 4 pillars of weakness. In psychology, there is an acronym used to describe the behaviors that drain our emotional stability. JADE. It stands for justify, argue, defend, and explain. Whenever you find yourself jading, you are in a position of weakness. Think about it. Who justifies their actions? A subordinate to a boss, a child to a parent, a defendant to a judge. When you spend your energy trying to make someone see your side, you are subconsciously placing them in a position of authority over you. You are asking for their verdict on your reality. The more you explain, the more you signal that you aren't sure of yourself. Deep, quiet confidence doesn't need to explain. It simply is. If you know that 2 + 2 = 4, and someone insists it's 5, do you get angry? Do you spend 3 hours trying to convince them? No. You might even laugh or just walk away. You don't need them to get it because your certainty is independent of their ignorance. Permissionless certainty. The anchor of this chapter is a concept I want you to burn into your mind. You don't need permission to be certain. Most people wait for external consensus before they allow themselves to feel correct. They look for likes on social media, nods in a meeting, or "I'm sorry" in an argument. This is permission certainty. It is fragile. It can be taken away at any moment. Permissionless certainty is different. It is an internal grounding. It is the realization that your experience is valid simply because you experienced it. Your boundaries are valid simply because you set them. You do not need a jury to deliberate on your life choices. When you stop seeking permission to be right, you reclaim a massive amount of energy. Imagine a workspace where a colleague questions your methods. Instead of spending 30 minutes defending your why, you simply say, "I've looked at the data, and this is the path I'm taking." When you stop explaining, people stop questioning. Why? Because your lack of defense signals that there is nothing to defend. It signals that you are the ultimate authority in your own domain. The power of "you may be right." One of the most effective tools for detaching from the need to be understood is a technique I call conversational Aikido. When someone attacks your position or misinterprets your intentions, your instinct is to correct them. Instead, try using the most powerful 4-word sentence in the English language: "You may be right." Think about what happens when you say that. If someone says, "You're being completely unreasonable," and you respond with, "You may be right," the argument ends instantly. You haven't agreed that you're unreasonable, You've simply agreed that from their perspective, you might look that way. And more importantly, you've signaled that you don't care if they think you're unreasonable. By refusing to fight for understanding, you win the war for stability. You have stepped out of the ring. You have shown that your internal state is not up for debate. You are choosing peace over being seen. The courtroom meditation. If you find yourself obsessing over a situation where someone wronged you or misunderstood your intentions, I want you to try this mental exercise. Close your eyes and visualize a courtroom. You are on the stand, desperately trying to present evidence to a judge and jury, represented by the people who don't understand you. You are sweating, you are shouting, you are showing them receipts. And the jury is just shaking their heads. Now, I want you to visualize yourself standing up, walking out of the witness box, and walking out of the courtroom entirely. Realize that there is no judge. There is no jury. There is only you. The trial is a hallucination. You are the only person who has to live with your decisions, so you are the only person whose understanding truly matters. As you walk out of that courtroom, feel the weight of everyone else's opinion falling off your shoulders. Real-life scenarios, detaching in practice. How does this look in the real world? Scenario 1. The critical parent. Your mother criticizes your parenting style or your career path. The old you would spend the entire Sunday dinner trying to explain why you're doing what you're doing. You'd leave feeling drained and angry. The new you listen. You nod. You say, I hear your concerns. You don't explain. You don't defend. You remain steady because you don't need her to get it to know you're a good parent or a professional. Scenario 2. The office gossip. You find out a coworker misinterpreted something you said and is telling others you're difficult. The old you hunt them down to clear the air and explain what you really meant. The new you do nothing. You continue to be excellent at your job. You let your results be your explanation. You realize that their misunderstanding is a reflection of their character, not yours. Scenario 3. The online argument. Someone leaves a scathing, incorrect comment on your post. The old you type a 500-word rebuttal with links and sources. The new you don't even reply. Or you hit delete. You realize that an anonymous person's understanding of you has zero impact on your bank account, your health, or your happiness. Your mission for Chapter 4. For the next week, I want you to go on an explanation fast. Whenever someone disagrees with you or questions you, see if you can provide the bare minimum of information. If someone asks why you aren't coming to an event, don't give 3 excuses. Just say, I can't make it, but thanks for the invite. Notice the itch to explain. Notice the discomfort of being misunderstood. Sit with that discomfort. Don't scratch the itch. As you do this, you will feel a new kind of strength rising. It is the strength of the quiet professional. It is the strength of the person who is so grounded in their own reality that they don't need anyone else to validate it. Remember, being understood is a luxury. Being stable is a necessity. If you have to choose stability every time. Summary phrase to remember. You don't need permission to be certain. Chapter 5. Control the narrative in your mind. Imagine 2 people are standing in the middle of a sudden, torrential downpour. They don't have umbrellas. Both are getting soaked to the bone. Their clothes are ruined, and they are shivering in the wind. The first person is furious. They are thinking, this is just my luck. The world is against me. I look ridiculous. This has ruined my entire day. I'm probably going to get sick, and I'll miss that meeting, and my boss will think I'm incompetent. Their body is tense, their jaw is clenched, and their stress hormones are redlining. The second person looks at their soaked sleeves and thinks, well, I'm officially as wet as I can possibly get. There's no point in worrying about it now. It's actually kind of funny. I look like a drowned rat. I'll go home, take a hot shower, and it'll be a great story to tell later. At least the garden is getting watered. Their body remains relaxed. They might even be smiling. The external event is identical. The biological reality, wet skin and cold air, is identical. The only difference is the narrative. In this chapter, we are going to explore the most powerful theatre in the world, the one inside your mind. You will learn that external events have no power to make you feel anything. It is only the story you tell yourself about those events that creates your emotional state. If you want to master your emotions, you must first master your internal narrator, the architect of your reality. We often think of ourselves as passive observers of our lives. We think things happen to us, and we simply report on them. But psychology tells us the opposite. You are not a reporter, you are an architect. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. It cannot handle raw data. It must wrap every event in a story to make sense of the world. If someone doesn't text you back, your brain doesn't just record no response received. It writes a script. They are ignoring me because I'm boring, or they are busy and successful, or they've been in a car accident. The narrative you choose determines the emotion you feel. The emotion you feel determines the action you take. And the action you take determines the quality of your life. This is the cycle of power. If you allow your internal narrator to be pessimistic, reactionary, or victim-based, you will live in a state of constant emotional instability. But if you seize control of the script, you can remain steady in the middle of a hurricane. Reframing, the alchemist's tool. The most effective way to control the narrative is through a process called cognitive reframing. Reframing is the art of looking at the same set of facts and shifting the context so that the meaning changes. Think of a picture in a frame. If you put a photo of a dark forest in a heavy, black Gothic frame, it looks scary. If you take that same photo and put it in a bright, gold, ornate frame, it looks like a majestic landscape. The picture didn't change. The frame did. Let's look at the 3 most common scripts that cause emotional instability and learn how to reframe them for power. 1. Failure as feedback. For the reactive person, failure is a permanent label. It is a period at the end of a sentence. When a project fails or a business venture collapses, the narrative is, I am a failure. I've wasted time. I'm not cut out for this. This story leads to shame, which leads to paralysis. For the stable person, failure is not a label, it is data. It is a comma in a sentence that is still being written. The reframe is, this specific approach did not work. This is essential feedback that tells me where the weakness is. I am now more qualified than I was yesterday because I know what to avoid. One story creates a victim. The other creates a scientist. 2. Criticism as information. When someone criticizes us, our internal narrator often screams, they are attacking me. They don't appreciate me. I need to defend my honor. This is the ego narrative, and it is the enemy of stability. It makes you defensive, small, and reactive. The power reframe is to treat criticism as market research. When someone says something negative about you, look at it as if you were a third-party consultant. Ask, is there a grain of truth here? If yes, I will use it to improve. If no, then this person is simply revealing their own bias or bad mood. By turning an attack into data, you remove the sting. You don't get angry at a spreadsheet, so don't get angry at criticism. Just process it. 3. Chaos as a training ground. When life gets overwhelming, when the kids are screaming, the car won't start, and the bills are due, the old narrative is, I can't handle this. Why is this happening to me? The power reframe is, this is a high-level training session for my nervous system. If I can stay calm right now, in this mess, I'm becoming untouchable. This is the gym for my soul. By viewing stress as a workout, you move from a state of suffering to a state of performance. The poison of always and never. If you want to control your narrative, you must audit your vocabulary. Your internal narrator loves to use universal qualifiers. Words like always, never, everyone, and nobody. I always mess things up. He never listens to me. Everyone thinks I'm a joke. These words are the language of instability. They are demonstrably false. No one always messes up. No one never listens. When you use these words, you are lying to yourself to justify an emotional outburst. You are creating a totalitarian narrative where there is no hope for change. The stable mind uses specific, limited language. Instead of I always mess up, try I made a mistake on this specific task. Instead of he never listens, Try "he didn't hear me in this specific conversation." Specific language keeps the problem small. Small problems are manageable. Universal problems are overwhelming. The "so what" method. When your internal narrator starts spiraling into what if territory, you need a circuit breaker. What if I lose my job? What if she leaves me? What if I look stupid? The best way to neutralize these stories is the "so what" method. Take the fear to its logical conclusion. If I lose my job, so what? I will be stressed for a week, then I will update my resume, then I will reach out to my network. I've survived before, I'll survive again. When you answer the what if with a "so what," you strip the story of its mystery. Fear lives in the dark corners of the unsaid. By speaking the worst-case scenario aloud and attaching a plan to it, you reclaim the narrative. You realize that you are the protagonist of the story, not the victim of the plot. Becoming the editor-in-chief. Every evening, spend 5 minutes doing what I call a story audit. Think of one moment during the day when you felt a spike of negative emotion, anger, anxiety, or sadness. Identify the rough draft story you told yourself in that moment. E.g., my boss was short with me because she's going to fire me. Now, write 2 alternative scripts for that same event. Script A: my boss was short because she had a headache and 3 meetings back to back. Script B: my boss was short because she trusts me enough to not need to perform politeness with me. Which script is true? It doesn't actually matter. What matters is which script keeps you in a state of power and stability. Since you don't know the absolute truth, why would you ever choose the story that makes you miserable? The mantra of the master. Your internal dialogue is the soundtrack of your life. If you play a soundtrack of war, you will feel like a soldier under fire. If you play a soundtrack of peace, you will feel like a king in his garden. You are the only person who can hear this voice, and you are the only person who can change it. From this moment on, stop accepting the rough draft of your thoughts. Edit them. Refine them. Command them. The events of your life are the clay, but your narrative is the mold. If the mold is broken, the life will be crooked. If the mold is strong and steady, the life will be a masterpiece. The repetition line. The story you tell becomes the state you live. Carry this with you. When you feel the heat of a reaction, ask, what story am I telling right now? And is it a story that gives me power, or a story that gives it away? Choose the power story. Every single time. Summary phrase to remember. The story you tell becomes the state you live. Chapter 6. Build a nervous system that doesn't panic. Have you ever tried to talk yourself out of being nervous? You're standing backstage before a big presentation, or you're about to have a difficult conversation with someone you love. Your mind is saying, stay calm. There's nothing to worry about. You've got this. But your body is telling a completely different story. Your palms are sweating. Your heart is drumming against your ribs like a trapped bird. Your breath is shallow and jagged. No matter how many positive affirmations you tell your brain, your body is convinced that you are about to be eaten by a lion. In this moment, your mind and your body are at war. And in the battle between the mind and the body almost always wins. Most people believe that emotional stability is a mental game, a matter of willpower and logic. But the truth is, emotional stability is physiological. You cannot think your way out of a panic that you have breathed yourself into. To truly command your emotions, you must first learn to command the physical vessel that carries them. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to build a nervous system that doesn't panic. We are going to stop trying to think ourselves into calm and start hacking our biology into a state of unshakable resilience. The two-way street. Your brain and your body. To understand why you lose control, you have to understand the autonomic nervous system. Think of it as having 2 gears, the gas and the brake. The gas is your sympathetic nervous system. This is the fight or flight response. When you feel threatened, your body dumps cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. It shuts down your digestion, redirects blood to your muscles, and, crucially, bypasses the logical part of your brain. You aren't meant to be logical when a lion is chasing you. You are meant to be fast and reactive. The brake is your parasympathetic nervous system. This is the rest and digest state. This is where clarity, empathy, and strategic thinking live. The problem is that most of us are walking around with our foot slammed on the gas pedal 24 hours a day. We are wired and tired. Because our nervous system is constantly on edge, the smallest external event, a snarky email or a red light, is enough to trigger a full-scale biological hijack. But here is the secret. The connection between your brain and your body is a two-way street. Your brain tells your body how to feel, but your body also sends signals back to your brain telling it whether it is safe or in danger. By manually controlling your body, you can force your brain to calm down. The manual override. The power of breath. The fastest way to take your foot off the gas and hit the brake is through your breath. It is the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can control consciously. When you are stressed, you take short, shallow breaths into your upper chest. This sends a signal to your brain. Emergency. We don't have enough oxygen for a long fight. This creates more anxiety, which creates more shallow breathing. It's a death spiral for your stability. To break the spiral, you must use the 4-7-8 technique, or box breathing. Let's try it now. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Feel your belly expand, not your chest. Hold that breath for a count of 7. This hold is vital. It signals to the brain that you have enough resources to pause. Exhale through your mouth with a whoosh sound for a count of 8. The long exhale is the key. It stimulates the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, which acts as the on-off switch for your relaxation response. By making your exhale longer than your inhale, you are physically forcing your heart rate to slow down. You are hacking the system. You are telling your brain, I am so safe that I can afford to breathe slowly. In any high-pressure situation, the person who controls their breath controls the room. Posture, the biofeedback of power. Your brain is constantly checking in with your muscles to see how you're doing. If your shoulders are hunched, your chin is down, and your arms are crossed, your brain receives a signal of defeat or defense. This posture actually increases cortisol levels and makes you feel more vulnerable. You are literally shaping yourself into a victim. Now, imagine the unshaken person. They stand tall. Their shoulders are back and relaxed. Their chin is level. Their hands are open and still. Even if you feel terrified inside, if you force your body into a posture of command, your brain will eventually follow suit. This is called proprioception. When your limbs are in a power pose, your brain begins to produce more testosterone, the confidence hormone, and less cortisol. Next time you feel a surge of instability, check your physical frame. Are you shrinking? Expand. Are you clenching your jaw? Release it. Are you fidgeting? Be still. A steady body creates a steady mind. The speed of the voice, projecting calm. One of the most overlooked aspects of emotional power is the tempo of your speech. When someone is nervous or defensive, they talk faster. They want to get their words out before they are interrupted. They use higher pitches. They fill the silence with and like. This is the sound of someone who is losing their grip. The commander speaks with a different rhythm. They speak slightly slower than the average person. They use pauses. They allow their words to land. By slowing your speech, you are doing two things. You are giving your brain time to catch up with your mouth, preventing reactive blurt-outs. You are signaling to the other person that you are not intimidated. You are the one who dictates the pace of the conversation. Silence is a tool of the powerful. The person who is comfortable with silence in a conversation is the person who has the most emotional stability. They don't feel the anxious need to fill the air. Building the baseline, cold and movement. You don't just want a nervous system that survives a crisis. You want one that is built for it. This requires resilience training. One of the most effective ways to build a nervous system that doesn't panic is through voluntary stress. This is why things like cold showers or ice baths are so popular among high performers. When you step into freezing water, your nervous system screams panic. Your instinct is to gasp and jump out. But if you stay in, and you use your 4-7-8 breath to stay calm while the water is cold, you are training your brain to remain steady during a system shock. You are teaching yourself that you can be uncomfortable and calm at the same time. The next time a client yells at you, your brain will recognize the shock and say, "Oh, this is just like the cold shower. I know how to breathe through this." Your daily regulation routine. Emotional stability is a physical hygiene, like brushing your teeth. To keep your nervous system from redlining, you need daily maintenance. The morning check-in. Spend 2 minutes doing deep belly breathing before you even look at your phone. Don't let a notification be the first thing that sets your gas pedal. The posture reset. Every time you walk through a doorway, use it as a trigger to pull your shoulders back and level your chin. The speech break. In your next phone call, consciously try to speak 10% slower than usual. Notice how much more in control you feel. The commander's physiology. Remember, your emotions are not just thoughts. They are a chemical cocktail flowing through a physical system. If you try to change the thoughts without changing the system, you are fighting an uphill battle. Stop being a victim of your biology. Start being the engineer of it. When the world gets chaotic, don't try to think yourself into peace. Instead, go to your body. Relax your shoulders. Slow your breath. Still your hands. Lower your voice. By the time you have mastered your body, you will find that the panic has nowhere to live. It has been evicted by the presence of your command. The core phrase to remember. Slow body, steady mind. Carry this with you into every high-pressure moment. If you can keep your body slow, your mind will eventually find its center. Chapter 7. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Think about the most powerful person you've ever met. Truly powerful. Not someone who was loud or bossy, but someone whose presence filled the room the moment they walked in. Did they talk a lot? Usually, the answer is no. Most people who possess true, unshakable power are surprisingly quiet. They don't feel the need to fill every gap in conversation. They don't rush to answer questions the second they are asked. They don't chatter away to ease the tension in a room. In our culture, we are taught that communication is the key to influence. We are told to speak up, make our voices heard, and pitch our ideas. But there is a secret side to communication that is far more potent. Silence. Silence is not just the absence of noise. It is a strategic tool. It is a vacuum that pulls the truth out of other people. It is a shield that protects your emotional state from being exposed. And most importantly, it is the ultimate signal of certainty. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to stop over-explaining and start letting silence do the heavy lifting for you. The anxiety of the gap. Why are we so afraid of silence? If you're on a first date, or in a job interview, or even just talking to a friend, and a pause lasts longer than 3 seconds, most people feel a physical itch to say something, anything, to break the tension. This itch is actually anxiety. We worry that if we aren't talking, we are being judged. We worry that the other person is bored, or that we seem slow, or that we've lost control of the interaction. So, we blurt things out. We tell jokes that aren't funny. We give away too much information. We over-explain our decisions. Every time you speak out of a need to break the tension, you are leaking power. You are telling the world, I am uncomfortable. I am not stable enough to sit in this silence. The new power is the ability to sit in that gap and feel perfectly at home. When you are emotionally stable, silence doesn't feel empty, it feels full. It feels like a choice. The negotiator's best friend. In the world of high-level business and negotiation, silence is a weapon. Imagine you are asking for a raise. You state your case, you name your number, and then you do the hardest thing in the world. You stop talking. Most people state their number and then, because the silence feels heavy, they keep talking. They say, I think I deserve 90K, because I've worked hard, and I know the budget is tight, so maybe we could look at other benefits too, or I could take on more work. By continuing to talk, they have just negotiated against themselves. They've signaled their insecurity. The master negotiator says, based on my performance and market data, my salary requirement is 90K. Then they wait. They may wait 5 seconds. They may wait 30. By holding the silence, you force the other person to be the one to break it. And usually, the person who breaks the silence is the one who makes the concession. Silence signals that you are certain of your value. It signals that your price is not a suggestion, it's a fact. Silence as an answer to conflict. Nothing disarms an angry person faster than silence. When someone is shouting at you or trying to bait you into an argument, they are looking for emotional fuel. They want you to get defensive. They want you to yell back. They want a hit of your energy to justify their own anger. If you respond with silence, not a cold, silent treatment silence, but a calm, attentive, steady silence, you starve them of that fuel. Imagine someone says, "You're being completely selfish and you never think about anyone but yourself." If you scream back, the fight is on. If you stay silent, look them in the eye, and wait 3 beats before saying, "I hear that you're frustrated," you have completely changed the power dynamic. Your silence says, "Your words have not moved me. I am not afraid of your anger. I am still here, I am still steady, and I am waiting for you to finish your tantrum so we can talk like adults." Silence is the ultimate no. It is the refusal to play a game that is beneath you. The 3-second rule. To begin practicing this, I want you to implement the 3-second rule in all your professional and personal interactions. When someone asks you a question, especially a difficult or confrontational one, do not answer immediately. Count to 3 in your head. 1, 2, 3. During those 3 seconds, keep your eyes on the person. Maintain a neutral, relaxed expression. This does 3 things. It gives you time to move from reaction to command. Chapter 1. It shows the other person that you are a deep processor. You aren't just reacting, you are thinking. It creates a sense of gravity. People who think before they speak are listened to more closely when they finally do open their mouths. The power of wait and see. We often feel like we have to have an opinion on everything immediately. Someone tells us about a political event, or a company change, or a rumor, and they look at us for a reaction. The emotionally stable person knows that they don't have to give a reaction. You can simply say, "I'm still processing that," or better yet, say nothing at all. When you don't react immediately, you maintain your intellectual sovereignty. You aren't being swept up in the crowd's energy. You are the calm center. By letting the silence hang, you often find that the situation resolves itself without you having to do anything at all. Problems that seem like emergencies at 10 a.m. are often forgotten by 4 p.m. if you don't pour the gasoline of your own reaction onto them. Silence is the ultimate proof of certainty. Over-explaining is the hallmark of the insecure. Think about a king. Does a king explain why he wants the army to move? No. He gives the order. Think about a master craftsman. Does he explain why he's using a specific chisel? No. He just uses it. When you explain your decisions to people who don't need to know, you are subtly asking for their approval. You are saying, "Is this okay? Do you agree with me?" If you decide to leave a party early, you don't need to say, "I'm leaving because I have a big day tomorrow and I'm a bit tired and the music is a bit loud." Just say, "I'm heading out now. Great to see you." If you decide to change your mind on a project, you don't need to justify it with a list of 10 reasons. Just say, "I've decided to go in a different direction." The less you say, the more your words matter. Silence acts as the white space on a page that makes the text stand out. Without the white space, it's just a jumble of noise. Practice the quiet day. I want to give you a challenge. One day this week, I want you to try a silence audit. See if you can reduce the number of words you speak by 30%. Don't offer opinions unless you're asked. Don't fill the silence in the elevator or the car. Don't defend yourself if someone makes a minor mistake or a slight comment. Watch how people react to you. You will notice something fascinating. People will actually start to treat you with more respect. They will lean in when you speak. They will work harder to please you. Why? Because your silence makes you a mystery. And in a world where everyone is shouting their brand and their truth from the rooftops, the person who stays quiet is the only one who looks like they actually know what they're doing. The soul of the commander. Emotional stability is the art of being heavy. When you are light, you are blown around by every wind of conversation. You are twitchy, talkative, and reactive. When you are heavy, you are grounded. You are still. You are the anchor. Silence is what makes you heavy. It is the weight of your presence. It is the visual proof that you are not afraid of what is happening inside your own mind, so you don't need to escape it through speech. The next time you feel the urge to explain, to defend, or to fill the gap, stop. Take a breath. Look at the other person. Let the silence do the work for you. The anchor phrase to remember. Silence signals certainty. Speak only when your words are more powerful than your silence. Most of the time, they aren't. Chapter 8. Stop absorbing other people's chaos. Have you ever walked into an office, a house, or a meeting feeling perfectly fine, perhaps even great, only to walk out an hour later feeling drained, anxious, or inexplicably angry? You didn't have a bad day. Nothing personal happened to you. But you were in the presence of someone who was having a bad day. You were near someone who was venting, complaining, or radiating stress. And without realizing it, you picked up their emotional luggage and started carrying it as if it were your own. In psychology, this is called emotional contagion. We are social creatures with mirror neurons designed to help us empathize with others. But there is a massive difference between empathy and absorption. Empathy is understanding how someone feels. Absorption is feeling it with them to the point of your own destruction. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to build an emotional firewall. You will learn that you are not a sponge, and you are not responsible for fixing the weather in someone else's head. To hold the new power, you must learn the art of being close to the fire without letting it burn you. The myth of the empathic duty. Many of us were raised to believe that being a good person means feeling what others feel. We think that if a friend is sad, we must be sad with them. If our spouse is stressed, we should be stressed too, out of solidarity. But think about the logic of that for a moment. If your friend is drowning in a lake, do you help them by jumping in and drowning next to them? No. You stay on the shore, firmly planted on solid ground, and you throw them a rope. When you absorb someone else's chaos, you lose your ability to help them. You simply become another person in the chaos. True emotional stability is about staying on the shore. It is about maintaining your own baseline of calm so that you can actually be of service to the people around you, or, at the very least, so you don't lose your own peace. The physics of detachment, the glass wall. The secret to not absorbing chaos is a mental shift from participation to observation. Imagine there is a thick, soundproof glass wall between you and the person who is currently venting, shouting, or radiating negativity. You can see them. You can hear their words. You can see the redness in their face and the tension in their hands. But through the glass, their energy cannot touch you. When you look at someone through this glass wall, they cease to be a threat to your peace and instead become a subject of study. You stop thinking, why are they doing this to me? And you start thinking, isn't it interesting how much stress this person is carrying right now? Look at how their anger is making them breathe. By observing them, you remain in your commander brain, the prefrontal cortex. The moment you start absorbing their feelings, you have dropped down into your reactive brain. The mantra: observe, don't absorb. Scenario 1. The toxic workplace. We spend a third of our lives at work, and unfortunately, many workplaces are breeding grounds for emotional chaos. There is the constant complainer, the micromanaging boss, and the office politician who loves to stir the pot. In these environments, you must use the grey rock method. A grey rock is boring. It doesn't react. It doesn't provide emotional hits. If a toxic coworker tries to pull you into a gossip session or a venting spiral, don't give them the fuel they're looking for. Don't disagree, which starts a fight, and don't agree, which absorbs the energy. Just be a grey rock. Give short, neutral answers. I see. That's interesting. I'm focused on finishing this report right now. When you refuse to absorb their chaos, the chaos producer will eventually move on to someone else who is more willing to play the game. By remaining stable, you make yourself unpalatable to toxic people. Scenario 2. Online conflict and the digital swamp. The internet is a 24-hour factory of manufactured outrage. Every time you scroll through a comment section or a heated Twitter thread, you are entering a room where thousands of people are throwing their chaos into the air. Your nervous system wasn't designed to handle the collective anger of 5 million strangers. When you feel that familiar spike in your chest because someone said something wrong or offensive online, recognize it for what it is. secondhand stress. You are absorbing the chaos of a person who likely doesn't even know you exist. The stable person realizes that their attention is their most valuable currency. Why would you spend it on a digital ghost? Before you reply, before you get angry, use the glass wall. Observe the chaos, realize it is not yours, and keep scrolling. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Scenario 3. Family tension and the peacekeeper trap. Family is often the hardest place to remain UN-absorbed. These are the people who know exactly which buttons to push because they were the ones who built the buttons in the first place. Maybe you have a parent who uses guilt as a weapon, or a sibling who is always in a crisis. You feel a duty to fix it. But here is the hard truth. You cannot fix a state of mind that you did not create. If you try to soothe someone who is committed to being miserable, they will only drag you down into the pit with them. To protect your stability, you must set internal boundaries. An external boundary is saying no to a request. An internal boundary is saying no to an emotion. It sounds like this: I love my sister, and I can hear that she is in a crisis, but I refuse to let her anxiety live in my body tonight. I will listen for 10 minutes, and then I will go for a walk and return to my own center. You are allowed to love people and still refuse to participate in their drama. The lighthouse visualization. When you are surrounded by people who are in a storm, don't try to be the rescue boat. The rescue boat has to go out into the waves. It gets tossed around. It's in danger of capsizing. Be the lighthouse. The lighthouse doesn't run out into the water to save the ships. It stays on the rock. It stands tall. It remains perfectly still. Its only job is to keep its light shining. By being the most stable person in the room, you are actually doing more for the ships than if you were to join them in the waves. Your stillness provides them with a point of reference. Sometimes, your calm is the only thing that helps them find their own way back to the shore. Detaching with compassion. There is a misconception that detachment is cold or heartless. It's actually the highest form of compassion. When you absorb someone's chaos, you are essentially saying, I believe your chaos is more powerful than my peace. You are validating their dysfunction. When you remain detached and stable, you are holding a standard. You are showing them what it looks like to be in control. You are saying, I hear you, I care about you, but I will not join you in the fire. This is the only way to lead. A doctor who cries at the sight of blood cannot perform surgery. A pilot who panics when the passengers scream cannot land the plane. To be a power in the world, you must remain separate from the panic of the world. Your mission for Chapter 8. This week, I want you to become an emotional detective. Every time you feel a shift in your mood, a sudden drop in energy or a spike in irritation, ask yourself, is this mine? Look around. Did you just talk to someone who was complaining? Did you just read a negative news story? If the emotion isn't yours, don't keep it. Visualize yourself physically handing the emotion back to its owner. Say to yourself, I see your chaos. I acknowledge it, but I refuse to absorb it. Go back to your breath. Reclaim your baseline. Stand on your rock. The repetition line to remember. Observe, don't absorb. When you master the ability to stay cool while the world burns, you aren't just stable, you are a force of nature. Chapter 9. Consistency is stronger than intensity. We live in a culture that worships the big moment. We love the movie scene where the hero suddenly finds their courage and gives a stirring 3-minute speech that changes everything. We love the idea of a breakthrough, the one therapy session, the one book, or the one weekend retreat that finally fixes us and makes us perfectly calm forever. But here is the reality of human psychology. Emotional power is not won in a day. It is built in the decimals. Most people try to change their lives through intensity. They wait until they are at a breaking point, and then they try to overhaul everything at once. They go on a dopamine detox, they start a 2-hour meditation practice, or they vow to never get angry again. But intensity is like a flash flood. It is powerful for a moment, but it soon dries up, leaving the landscape unchanged. Emotional stability, the kind of power that people feel when you walk into a room, is built through consistency. It is the boring, repetitive, daily discipline of managing yourself when nobody is watching. It is the decision to stay steady on a Tuesday morning when nothing is particularly wrong, so that you are prepared for the Friday afternoon when everything goes sideways. In this chapter, we are going to learn why small control, exercised every single day, is the only way to become truly unshakable. The motivation trap. The biggest enemy of consistency is motivation. Motivation is an emotion. It is a feeling of high intensity that makes you want to take action. But because motivation is an emotion, it is inherently unstable. It comes and goes like the wind. If you only practice emotional control when you feel motivated to do so, you are, by definition, allowing your emotions to run the show. The person who relies on intensity is a Vegas gambler. They put all their emotional energy on one big bet. The person who relies on consistency is a value investor. They put small amounts of control into the bank every single day. After a year, the gambler is usually broke. The investor has a fortune. True power is the ability to do what is necessary even when the feeling is gone. It is the ability to pause and breathe even when you are tired, even when you are bored, and even when you don't think it matters. The compound interest of the mind. In finance, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Small amounts of money, invested consistently over time, grow exponentially. Emotional stability works exactly the same way. Every time you choose to ignore a rude comment, you earn a tiny bit of calm capital. Every time you choose to speak slowly instead of rushing your words, you earn a bit more. In the moment, these choices feel insignificant. You might think, what does it matter if I stayed calm in traffic today? The world is still a mess. But these small acts are rewiring your brain. You are strengthening the neural pathways between your trigger and your command center. If you do this once, nothing happens. If you do it every day for 6 months, you become a different person. Your baseline shifts. Things that used to send you into a 3-day spiral now barely register on your radar. You haven't had a breakthrough, you've simply built a massive reserve of calm capital through the power of consistency. The training mindset versus the performance mindset. Most people only think about emotional stability when they are performing, when they are in the big meeting or the major argument. But you cannot perform what you have not practiced. Imagine a world-class pianist. They don't just show up to the concert hall and decide to be great. They have spent 10,000 hours in a small room, playing the same scales over and over again until their fingers can move without their brain even being involved. To be emotionally powerful, you must stop seeing your life as a series of random events and start seeing it as a continuous training session. The annoying coworker isn't a nuisance. They are a resistance band for your patience. The slow grocery store line isn't a delay. It's a weight bench for your presence. The unreturned text isn't a slight. It's a treadmill for your detachment. When you view your daily life as a gym, you stop getting upset by challenges. Instead, you welcome them. You think, here is another chance to practice my consistency. Here is another rep. Building the architecture of stability. Daily routines. Consistency requires a structure to live in. You cannot rely on your memory to stay stable. You must rely on your habits. Here are 3 daily routines that build the muscle of emotional power. 1. The morning buffer. Most people start their day in a state of reactive panic. They wake up to an alarm, a stress signal, immediately grab their phone, more stress signals, and start absorbing the world's chaos before they've even stood up. They are starting their day at a -10 on the stability scale. The stable person builds a buffer. For the first 15 to 30 minutes of your day, the world does not exist. No phone, no news, no email. Use this time to set the thermostat of your mind. Do your breathing exercises. Set your intention. Today, I will be the commander of my state. I will observe, not absorb. By starting at a +10, you can handle the hits that the day will inevitably throw at you. 2. The deliberate pause. Throughout your day, you must practice what I call micro-resets. Every time you transition from one task to another, from a meeting to a phone call, or from work to home, stop for 60 seconds. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Drop the energy of the previous task. Most emotional instability is caused by residue. You're angry at your spouse because you're still carrying the stress from your boss. By using the deliberate pause, you clean the slate throughout the day, ensuring that your consistency remains unbroken. 3. The evening reflection, the after-action report. Before you go to sleep, audit your performance. Ask yourself, where did I lose my command today? What was the trigger? What story did I tell myself? This isn't about shaming yourself. It's about data collection. If you realize you always lose your cool around 4 p.m. when you're hungry and tired, you can plan for it tomorrow. Consistency is built on the back of awareness. Why intensity fails and consistency wins. Intensity is often fueled by ego. We want to show everyone how much we've changed. We want the dramatic transformation. But consistency is fueled by humility. It is the recognition that you are a work in progress. It is the willingness to do the small, unglamorous work of self-regulation even when nobody is clapping. In the long run, the intense person burns out. They have a week of being a Zen master and then a month of being a total wreck. This volatility makes people lose trust in them. The consistent person might only be 1% better each day, but they never backslide. Over time, this makes them the most powerful person in the room because they are the only one who is reliable. People know that no matter what the crisis is, this person will show up with the same level of calm. The power of small control. The mantra of this chapter is, small control every day. Don't worry about being perfectly stable during a divorce or a corporate merger right now. Focus on being stable while you're washing the dishes. Focus on being stable when someone interrupts you in a conversation. If you can control the small things, the big things will take care of themselves. Why? Because by the time the big crisis arrives, your nervous system will be so well trained in the art of the pause that your response will be automatic. You won't have to try to be calm, you will simply be calm. Stability is not a destination you reach, it is a way of traveling. Your mission for Chapter 9. For the next 7 days, I want you to ignore the big picture. I want you to focus entirely on the rep. Every time you feel a slight internal shiver of annoyance, anxiety, or haste, perform 1 rep of stability. Take 1 breath. Slow your speech for 1 sentence. Give 1 neutral response instead of a defensive one. Do not worry about being perfect. Just worry about being consistent. If you fail in the morning, start again in the afternoon. The streak doesn't matter, the return to center matters. Build your calm capital. 1 decimal at a time. Summary phrase to remember. Small control every day. Chapter 10. Become the calm center others orbit. In the field of physics, there is a law concerning gravity. The object with the greatest mass exerts the strongest pull. Smaller objects are naturally drawn into its orbit. They don't have a choice. They simply follow the curve of the space created by the larger mass. In human psychology, emotional stability functions exactly like gravity. We live in a world of high-velocity particles, people who are constantly spinning, reacting, panicking, and shifting their energy based on the latest news, the latest insult, or the latest fear. Most people are small-mass individuals. They are easily pulled into someone else's storm. But then, there is the calm center. This is the person who has done the work we've discussed in the previous 9 chapters. They have mastered the pause. They have regulated their nervous system. They have detached from the need for validation. And because of this, they possess a massive amount of emotional weight. In this final chapter, we are going to explore the ultimate result of your journey. We are going to look at how emotional stability creates a natural, effortless authority that doesn't need to shout to be heard. You will learn that when you stay steady, you don't just find peace for yourself. You become the center of power that everyone else orbits. The social physics of the calm center. Have you ever noticed that in a moment of emergency, a fire alarm in a building or a sudden crash on a street, everyone's head turns in the same direction? They aren't looking for the person who is screaming the loudest. They are looking for the person who looks like they have a plan. This is a deep, evolutionary survival mechanism. Our ancestors survived because they followed the non-anxious presence. When the tribe was under threat, the individual who stayed calm was the only one capable of logical strategy. Therefore, that individual became the leader. In modern life, This dynamic hasn't changed. In your office, your family, or your social circle, there is a hierarchy of calm. The person with the most emotional stability has the most influence. Why? Because they are the most reliable source of reality. When everyone else is blinded by the fog of war, anger, fear, or ego, the stable person is the only one who can see the path forward. Consequently, the group naturally orbits them, waiting for their signal, their opinion, and their direction. Authority versus dominance, the new power. For decades, we've been told that power looks like dominance. It looks like the loudest voice in the room, the person who interrupts others, and the person who uses aggression to get their way. But dominance is fragile. It requires constant energy to maintain. If a dominant person stops shouting, their power vanishes. Dominance is low-mass power. It is a flash of heat that eventually burns out. Authority, however, is high-mass power. Authority doesn't need to push, it pulls. True authority is rooted in emotional stability. It is the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, I know what we need to do, and I am not moved by your resistance. When you are the calm center, you don't have to demand respect. You command it through your presence. People feel your stability. They sense that you cannot be baited into a petty argument. They see that you are not desperate for their approval. This makes you heavy. And because you are heavy, you become the point of reference for everyone else's behavior, shaping the group energy. As the calm center, you possess a superpower, the ability to de-escalate a room without saying a word. Emotional states are contagious, as we learned in Chapter 8. But while chaos is a fast-moving, shallow contagion, calm is a slow-moving, deep one. When you enter a heated meeting and you refuse to match the frantic energy of the room, when you keep your voice low, your breath steady, and your posture open, you are sending a physiological signal to everyone else's nervous system. You are telling them, the predator is not in the room. We are safe to think. Slowly, the particles in the room begin to slow down to match your frequency. People stop shouting. They start listening. They begin to look to you to set the tone. You aren't just staying calm, you are curating the environment. You are the thermostat, not the thermometer. The thermometer merely records the temperature of the room. The thermostat sets it. The decision-maker's advantage. In any complex situation, the person with the most emotional stability will almost always make the best decision. When you are reactive, your mental field of vision narrows. You only see the immediate threat. You only care about winning the next 30 seconds of the argument. You are playing checkers. When you are the calm center, your field of vision is wide. You see the long-term consequences. You see the hidden motives of others. You see the third way that no one else has considered because they are too busy being angry. You are playing 3D chess. Because your decisions are consistently better, your influence grows. Over time, people stop questioning your judgment. They start saying, let's see what they think first. This is how you become a leader without ever having to ask for a title. Your stability is your credentials. The calm center in the family. This power is perhaps most beautiful within the home. Every family has a weather system. Often, that system is dictated by the person who is the most volatile. If dad is angry, everyone is on edge. If the teenager is having a crisis, the house is in an uproar. But you can choose to be the center of gravity for your family. When your partner is stressed, you don't have to join them in the stress to show you care. You can be the anchor. You provide the stable ground they can return to. When your children are spiraling, your lack of panic provides them with the external regulation they need to find their own calm. By being the person who doesn't break, you create a culture of safety. You become the person everyone wants to come home to, not because you fix their problems, but because your presence makes their problems feel manageable. Reviewing the 10 pillars of power. As we reach the conclusion of this guide, let us look back at the architecture of the power you have built. You stop reacting. You realized that reaction is a gift you no longer give away for free. You are unshaken. You understood that the world rewards consistency over volatility. You use signals. You learned to read your emotions as data, not as orders. You are detached. You realized you don't need anyone's permission to be certain. You control the narrative. You became the lead editor of your internal script. You are regulated. You hacked your biology through breath and posture. You use silence. You learned that silence is the ultimate proof of certainty. You don't absorb. You built a firewall against other people's chaos. You are consistent. You committed to small control every single day. You are the center. You have become the gravity that others orbit. The final transformation. When you stay steady, you become power. Many people believe that power is something you do. They think it's an action, a move, or a strategy. But the highest form of power is something you are. When you reach the stage of the calm center, you no longer have to try to be powerful. You don't have to try to be stable. It has become your nature. You have moved from commanding your emotions to simply being command. There will still be storms. There will still be critics. There will still be moments of deep pain and sudden loss. This book was never about creating a life without problems. It was about creating a person who cannot be destroyed by them. In the middle of the storm, the lighthouse doesn't move. The waves crash, the wind howls, and the world turns grey. But the light stays on. The lighthouse doesn't ask the storm to stop. It simply remains what it is. That is you. You are the lighthouse. You are the anchor. You are the gravity. When the world around you loses its mind, and it will, stand still. Breathe. Remember your narrative. Hold your silence. Stay steady. Because when you stay steady, you don't just survive the chaos, you lead it. You don't just find power, you become it. The final reinforcement. When you stay steady, you become power. A final note to the listener. You now have the tools. But remember, a tool is only as good as the hand that wields it. Emotional stability is not a trophy you win. It is a practice you live. Go out into the world today. Not as a person who is afraid of their feelings, but as a person who is the master of them. Look for the pause. Find the gap. And in that gap, build your kingdom. The world is waiting for someone who cannot be shaken. Let that person be you. End of audiobook.